Board has moved far enough that I'm doing a lot of stretching to reach things. Just leaning over isn't enough, so I've got to extend a back leg, and, you know, it's kind of cool. So that's so right now I'm doing the substitutions for the allied turn, and I got this unit, and this is part of what's wrong with this. Mullen Court, oh, not this one. Okay, I lost it. Mullen Court, this one. Combo substitution for Verdun A. Oh, and Verdun A. I thought it said Verdun A. Okay, I can live with this. This I know where it is. It's these two units, they're both marked. When it said Verdun and Verdun A in my mind, I'm like, well, the only Verdun piece I could find after much looking, you know, I mean, I spent 5 minutes on this substitution because I made a misread, was this artillery piece, which seemed a little weird, and there were two different Verdun A's, and I'm like, which one? Yeah, okay. So I got two units that are named the same that can combine into something that's not a garrison. I got no real problem with the garrison, to tell you the truth, and maybe I need the multiple units. It's hard to tell. Really, I find the defensive side, which in this case is the Entente, taking a lot less time in this system. This turn was exceedingly painful for them, to tell you the truth. A fair effort in trying to pull back, but the biggest thing is in that recalibrating the lines. And you can see I got a whole bunch of digging in type positions, but I also had to stretch things. Got a weird little bulge going here. That's the Maubeuge Fortress. I don't want to give that up. It's a strong point that really solidifies things, but if the Germans keep attacking weak spots around it, it's going to end up that I have to look up the investment roll in terms of, you know, getting rid of it. The danger that I foresee with that is, other than having to look up rules, is the sort of situation that historically happened in Antwerp, which doesn't feel like what I had happen, which is you end up leaving a small garrison to watch the fortress and besiege it, and it'll fall fairly quickly. Now, unlike Antwerp, Maubeuge has some pretty potent capabilities. It's a quality fortress and whatnot, so maybe I can't do that kind of action with it. And then shifting elements up into the center, and we're beginning to get, I'm sending the 21st Corps, it's making its walk through the 2nd. So the question there is, do I have someplace I really, really need them? Because then, especially if it's far away, then in training them makes the most sense. Somehow I'm resistant to putting guys on a train because it takes a full 9 movement points to get on the train and a full 9 to get off. So right there you're looking at 3 turns of movement. Well, 3 turns of movement is about 4 hexes or so. So, you know, here was 1 turn, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It might have been a good idea. Might have been a good idea to entrain them. I don't know. It's so hard for me to make that kind of planning. First of all, I have to know exactly where they're going to end up when I do entrain them. They've got to, you know, buy their tickets or whatever. No, I mean, you need that level of planning. And that level of planning is hard for me. I could definitely use another full corps up here in the north. But do I need it somewhere else first? And I've got this 8th Corps, which is recovering and should be available soon. I don't know. I'll leave things as they are because trying to unwind to get guys on a train is pretty hard. I'm not entirely sure where they were, right? So they might have had to make a move and start their training, whatever. They can move very, very rapidly on the trains, though. That's the big deal. It's like a tenth of a movement point per hex, which is hugely fast. So once you get them on the trains and off the trains, once you take that cost out of it, if you've got to shift any great distance, it is definitely the way to go. Over here, we're launching our attack down here, trying to, again, shorten the amount of line that we have to cover by getting rid of this hex. How much does it shorten it? I don't know. But if we can break in further and start causing more problems to the Germans, I just foresee that that's a good thing, since I have some excess capability here. Not a lot. I got to run back and form my line to avoid losing victory points. I'm also making a hit here because, hey, if the Germans are going to weaken everything down there that much, screw it, man. We'll take our hex back. And it does kind of strengthen us, I guess. It's not a big deal. We're not going to make any big push there unless the whole south collapses, and this game doesn't cause that kind of result when there's troops in the way. This has been a really, really painful active player side of one player turn, for something that's not really changing all that much. Okay, and the German attacks didn't do a whole hell of a lot. We did gain one interesting location, though. I'm trying to see. Yeah, we pushed further here, leaving this fortress behind because it's a German player turn coming up, so we'll be able to shift another unit up into there to cover it and start besieging it. And then we can crush this way, trying to take these the ridge line from the flank, or whatever. I don't think we can just press through. The French attacks down here didn't do much, and none of the fortresses fell. So, yeah, that's kind of an issue. Definitely, it's beginning to look like we're not going to make the kind of ground up here that we really need to. The question is that somehow being offset? Are the advances here making up for it? I don't think so. Look at all the points that are spread out throughout France that are not going to be easy for me to reach, especially since I'm driving this way, not this way. The reason I can't go this way is there's Verdun there. I don't have enough ammo left. I'm reserving my ammo and trying to bust through Maubeuge, not hitting Toul with anything except the smaller guns. I'm down to, two heavier ammo pieces. Now, I do have the prep bombs. They might change the equation. They might actually be better than this kind of siege bombardment technique that I'm using. I don't know. Because they can force retreats. And if I do, well, I can do an intense attack with a prep bombing, and that they give you multiple levels of column shift, so they make the intense combat a little bit more appealing. Whew, I had something, and I hope I didn't fuck up, but I'm pretty sure I didn't, where this was sitting on the German player turn. I don't think I give the Entente a double turn. German turn, I'm realizing every time I think I've got piles of troops coming on, it's all replacement, yeah. And, it's sort of like some games kind of take the, there's this abstract sort of, the strengths of the units varied throughout. They gradually got more effective or whatever, but we just kind of average it out throughout the game. Here, you're detailing every single replacement, of, this thing got a little bit stronger, this thing got a little bit better. I understand that desire, but boy, is it tedious to deal with. It's more the kind of thing that belongs, I think, in a computer game. Unfortunately, of course, there's no way I could play a computer game with this size map, or anywhere near it. For me, it basically has to be on one screen if I'm going to be doing this kind of gaming on it. There's some computer games, obviously, that I don't mind. The map is much, much larger than what's going on, but where you're dealing with a conventional wargaming type game, it just doesn't work for me. It does for some people. Okay, so again, a big launch of German attacks, just keep trying to grind our way forward, right? Here we're actually doing a prep bomb. I have a bunch of them. I assume, from my reading of it, it doesn't specify, but I assume if I want to use a 30.5 or a 42 centimeter, which adds to the CEL damage that your attack can create, that I have to actually expend the ammo for it, and I'm a little leery of doing that. I got too many fortresses I want to reduce. I think I'm just gonna try to storm this thing with something like, a drumfire barrage type of attack, where I'm just gonna try to rely on the surprise effect. Obviously, there's no surprise effect built into this. There's no rolling barrages or drumfire barrages invented yet, but this is kind of that idea. Is let's just start the firepower and hope that breaks it without trying to reduce the fortress itself. Just rely on the combat results. And continual shifting of forces over. This is problematic because 6th Army is big. It was taking a lot of room. Now it's taking a lot less room, but I'm finding it harder to shove units into it or into these other formations. So, we're going to see the boundaries shift is what's really going to happen as this becomes a dead front. It's a pity. It's eating up a lot of troops from both sides without anything going to happen on it. It would have been a lot better to be up against there, but that might have freed up more French troops than German, so who knows, all right, we're gonna hit the counter move, but I'm really tired, so probably it'll happen like if I wake up in the middle of the night. Turns out no gaming, like I was supposed to do some opposed gaming, but it wasn't clear when. None tonight, probably tomorrow. Probably do something fairly light, but I don't know. If I'm not getting an answer as to the what, I think I'll probably aim for like Warriors of God. As the guy's into the idea of ancients or medieval, and I'm like, okay. I got a lot of stuff in those categories, so I don't know. Oh wow, I didn't even think about this pile. Well, those are possible too. One of the factors is length of time to play. I don't know. I got room to leave something set up if we want to do something a couple times a week or something, but rather make sure that we can kind of deal with each other when sober. Proceed with the German attacks. There are a lot of them. I don't think I've noted this before. The combat results table actually skips around a little bit in terms of how it works. And that adds to the complexity of, oh geez, I don't know what this is going to do. And then there's also getting used to, and I had some familiarity with the system already, but getting used to what you want in terms of a result. That's not always clear, In this particular case, it's hard to tell. Do I want to batter the Belgians more, or do I want do I want to force them to retreat? And I think, honestly, I mean, they're sort of a mixed bag, because the more you batter them, the more likely they are to retreat. But if these are fresh units in the line, or relatively fresh units, and I think they are, they're not going to fall due to a regular ECL check or EC check. Anyway, what we have here is on the 3-to-1 column, with a -2, that pulled my white die down to a 0, and then I rolled a 2 or a 3. Okay, -2 plus 4 with a retreat if I went intense. But that would cause a casualty to the Germans that I wouldn't want. Wow, that seems a little low, like a little weak of a result for a die roll that's pretty damn good with modifiers, whatever, at a reasonable odds. And indeed it is. I mean, if you look, if I had had slightly less of a quality advantage, the Belgians would have retreated. Now, I would take less of a CEL check penalty, but or bonus, as it were. I wouldn't be getting the CEL check bonus that I'm getting right now. So a weaker German force might appreciate not getting the CEL damage that it's going to get, that it might get off of the other value. But yeah, you know, I mean, they kind of stagger as to where you're going to get your retreats and everything. It's not linear. It's not all that predictable. And there are interesting reasons for stuff like that, but it always feels a little cheap when, you know, you're screwed out of a result you would have rather gotten just because, yeah, my troops are too good. It's hard to explain what would have caused. You know, it's not like these guys are likely to take any CEL effect no matter what off of a 0 or a minus. A -2 makes it impossible. A 0, basically they have a 1 in 36 chance of taking a hit. I'm guessing that there are 11 units. Actually, there's a cav in here, so it's a 3 out of 36, 1 in 12. But the... you know, the impact on the Belgians is clearly less, and I'm attacking. I want to have an impact on the defender. Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to have to pause a little bit. The real problem seems to be, and it's been affecting me all day, the stress of the idea of dealing with someone. And this happens every time that, like, it's just, I'm so used to the world that I'm from and have lived in for the past, you know, I don't know, what the fuck, 14, 15 years now, where, you know, maybe while I was in Phoenix, I would go out gaming. There was a once a month meeting or something like that, where every now and then I would head my way over there, or I would go to the con or something like that. But I don't think I ever had anybody over to do anything. Now, I've had a couple of times where I've had someone over, or being picked up later in the day or whatever, where it's not really like, it's not this fixed schedule. Everything's kind of unknown. But I used to love having, well, not so much under this circumstance. I used to really enjoy my once a week group gaming nights. I always felt funky about like one-on-one gaming with someone I wasn't, you know, in a relationship with, basically. I don't know why. It's even when it was someone that I, you know, was really comfortable with in general. And, you know, it was always an oddity. It was always an oddity. It was the kind of thing that I did maybe once or twice a year at most. I'm just not into it. And it's sort of a, well, you know, maybe I can get back to a gaming group if I make connections with enough different people or something. But man, Even here, I would go to the store, not so long ago. But the thing was, this whole, it's just really, really hard. It's really hard on me emotionally. Hey, the fact that units, and I got this wrong when I played the Serbian game, and I think I took a casualty here. Even asset units aren't destroyed. So there's no way to get rid of all of these fucking counters all over the map. There's no way to weaken the overall position. Boy, I wish there was something like that in La Grande Guerre, right? The argument they have is no divisional size units were destroyed in the campaign, and they used the same text for both this and for the Serbian campaign. Not sure how much I agree, but or believe that applies essentially to non-divisional units. That's why I think I came to the conclusion that, or I mistakenly had the understanding, whatever. I didn't really decide it. It just languished in my brain that asset units could be destroyed. Anyway, it just eats up, catching an asset alone means that that asset still exists, is still a functioning thing that can prevent you from advancing. The only way to destroy things is the isolation rules, which I did not have in play for the unit that I destroyed, but I'm not going to fish it out. Screw it. But it does mean that, there should be one less victory point for the Germans. If it ends up that close a game, sue me. Yeah. All right, so the reason I picked up the camera was not just to grouse about that, because I have the prep fire ready to go. So I got a bunch of 21 centimeter guns here. I got 4 of them in play. I also have some other guns, but like I said, in order to use them, I think I have to fire the artillery, the rounds off that I would use against a fortress, and I don't want to do that. So what I'm going to be looking at here, well, this kind of sucks, is this prep fire table, and I was wrong. It doesn't give you column shifts. It gives you additional effects that's going to be calculated into the battle. I guess it doesn't really matter when I do it. So let me calculate those results now. So I got 4 of them firing. Oh shit. We're going into a... we're going up an elevation, which gives us a penalty on this, but it gives us other penalties too, and I didn't see. I think we even have I don't know, I'm not sure if we have an escarpment there. Okay, 4 of them at +1. Oh, some of them might be 2s. Oh yeah, here's 2. I don't know, I can't tell. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I got 7 of them. Great. All right, so that'll get me to this column. Now I could pretty much add a 1E result otherwise, but I don't have that. But there's a good chance that I can force this to retreat based on this heavy fire. I did not mark off one of my very limited amount of these, although less limited than my regular artillery shells now. And we roll. And we're up. Oh, I got to check escarpment. Oh, that's going to be a hell of an attack. I got to check the escarpment capabilities here. Yeah, we got escarpment there. So that's actually +2. So we got a 3 roll. That means we're going to have a +6 to whatever result we get from the combat table, an S, and a 3E. And I got to remember those. I'll resolve the combat. Might as well do it on here because we're used to it. So 24, 30, 43. Fuck. 43 escarpment halved brings me to 21 and a half. Yeah, we're screwed. To 26. Yeah, we're just fucked. Sounds like 3 to 4. We're pretty close. Okay, we get a shift in our favor for doing a prepared attack, but we're facing the improved position level 2, so that's 2 shifts against us. That drops us to 1 to 2. The quality of the French is a 4. Oh, something works in our favor. So but there's a fortress there, right? The fortress has a 5 quality. Oops, I got the numbers wrong. 26, that's 37. And we were like 24 to 37. That sounds like we're down another column. Okay. Doesn't sound good. The prep fire, and we have to do an attack for this to work. But remember, we're at 6 plus S plus 3E, which might just get a retreat. Ooh, we get a nice roll. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. So the Germans only suffer a +2 from that roll. And I mark that this way. That's beginning to look pleasant. The French have to suffer an S, which will hit one of these. And what else? 3E. Okay, so before we check anything else, the 65R and 56R. Okay, the 56R is going to be, we're going to probably have 2 of these. 56R is going to be at -3. And what was the other one? 65R is also at -3. Okay. All right. Let me just check the rules for a moment. First of all, I'm cheating. I didn't realize the requirements on this. It has to be a hex that contains an IP printed on the map, so you're getting the 2 shifts against you. That's fine. That is part of the Paris or Antwerp fortified camps. Why the hell would you use it in Antwerp? Or one of the IP hexes around Nancy. Depends on how you define around Nancy. I've gone beyond Nancy to Toul to blow these firepower. Presumably, I could use this on this hex. It's kind of hard to see. I think this is around Nancy, this isn't, whatever. But they're close enough, right? I don't know. We'll leave it at that. I'm not sure what the requirement, why that requirement is there. Okay. Yep. Okay. Can't bombard and fire. And what we do is it occurs just before the attack. So what I was coming to check for was to make sure the prep bombardment provides any CRT column shifts. So that's where I read that. Where do we see column shifts? Oh, never mind. Oh, fuck. Yeah. All right. This is what I get for trying to pay attention. That is not a +6 for this. That's, and this is what I thought, 6 column shifts. But they're not in play because there's a fortress in the hex. As long as the fortress is still there, I can't bomb them out of the way. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to call this whole attack off. It's all bullshit. There's no way I would have made it. And we'll try it again some other time when we want to do it. And this is what you get for, not reading up on the role completely before you try to implement it. It's like, I vaguely remembered a bunch of stuff about this. Thought that I would get column shifts. This doesn't look like column shifts. But, yeah. So I would have been getting 6 column shifts if I had the fortress reduced already. Well, 6 column shifts, what the hell? I mean, that puts me into the yummy range. This same die roll still wouldn't have gotten me a retreat. But I was trying to use the prep fire to make up for the fact that I can't bombard these fortresses anymore. And I gave some 3S's out, didn't I? They need to come off. All right. Well, I don't know how we're going to get through the fortresses because we're pretty much out of ammo. And, but, maybe we can use it up here near Nancy. That seems to be the only fucking place. First of all, it's the only place that's legitimate to use it. And to tell you the truth, our artillery capabilities have pretty much run out. We got enough gunfire to maybe bust through one more hex. Maybe I save it for Paris, but I'm not going to make it to Paris in this game. I fucked up too much in the north. So yeah, boys and girls, don't play a game until you're completely familiar with the game from playing it several times. I mean, there's no way that that I'm going to find the time to dig back into this in any time in the near future. And, with my lifespan, my hope is that I get through some high proportion of the games that I have on my to-play list, whatever that is. Because it does keep growing. Yes, the list's length overall is dropping, but not at a sufficient rate, I mean, when I first compiled that list, my thought was, I can get through this in about 10 years. It's been about 10 years. The list ain't smaller than it was when I made that decision. It's bigger. Even if I live out my natural lifespan of being able to play games, even if I don't, croak in the next few months, it's just not going to happen. And that's very disturbing, to tell you the truth, because I really kind of wanted to get everything up. Okay. So only one fortress went. This little annoying one back here. Okay. Whatever. Did we gain much? Not really. It wasn't too terrible a turn until I started realizing that I didn't understand the prep fire rolls and thought that I could use them to make up for the fortress. As it stands, I don't know what value the prep fire really serves for me. Because, I mean, yes, I can bust the shit out of something once the fortress is gone, but it's the fortresses that are the pain in the ass. Now, on the bright side, the Nancy area, which I've cut through without using this, is lacking fortresses in a couple of places. So we should be able to gain some ground there, for whatever it's worth. And, there's an important victory point space there. I am beginning to doubt that I'm going to make it through the whole game. The reason being, look, I made it through more than halfway. For almost the whole game, except for the first couple turns, I have been stuck in a situation that's very close to what this part of the game should be developing as, right? Where sort of a foundational line is laid down, and it's difficult to push the enemy beyond it. Where's the difference in it? Well, if I had this ground, I would have thinned out the French line more. We're seeing essentially what I would call a successful defense, right? No shit. I'm always better on defense, but that's especially highlighted because I'm so bad on offense. And the fact that, like, you know, at least I'd have an idea the next time I played of how hard I have to push to try to get that historical breakthrough in the North. Can I get it or not? I don't know. You know, I've had to fight over a lot of ground to gain what I'm gaining. And that actually, if you take a look at, like, when I play something like La Grande Guerre, it actually comes down to things like that. I fail to push anywhere near the historical line. And you could make arguments for why that's not a bad thing. If you're going to march close to Paris and then fall back to find a defensible line, unless you're going to get Paris, it's not worth it. This game rewards you for that behavior. When I played Der Weltkrieg, I think I came a whole lot closer to the historical situation. I'm not quite sure. You know, that was a game that didn't have forced marches, if I recall correctly. I sure didn't need to push my units in quite the way that I have to push them here. The fact that CEL levels are what get knocked down when you force march, and that you know your advance is going to be slowed if you don't make them. Well, but if there's a gap open, run into it. You know, that's the lesson, I guess. Certainly what I did didn't work. Marching up slowly, giving the Brits the time to reach, you know, really. How far did I get? I mean, technically they were supposed to make it as far as Mons over here, and I think I made it, I don't know. I think I made it up a little further. Not a whole hell of a lot, but that extra space and the time that allowed me to form something like a line definitely did some good. I'm just not that convinced that German armies pushing with intensive attacks were going to actually do all that much better, or if they were going to grind down and run out of gas too quickly anyway. And then the question becomes, well, how do you make up for that? What do you have to do? Do you have to shift more forces here? You know, obviously I had way too much committed down here for way too long. But those were victory points that were, like, available to me early in the game. I had to go for them. And then it's hard to shift your forces. It's hard emotionally, again, to make that decision to get on rails, although the French are doing it here because we gotta get something to plug that situation up there. Oh, ended up I seem to have run into another flake in terms of gaming. This time a little different, but basically just I didn't answer emails like in time for me to know whether we were gaming today. Same thing happened yesterday as well. His argument was, well, I don't know how I didn't get this, but, you know, and my answer back was, yeah, I can do something tomorrow instead of next week or whatever. Didn't hear anything back all day today. And of course, I stressed, spent some time half-heartedly cleaning up some stuff in my house, not here, but where we would be in the living room area, and actually causing myself some problem in terms of, like, packing up my wife's paperwork and everything that, I kind of need to go through, and I was planning to do today, but I just couldn't bring myself to. But also, either not playing this or some other thing that would have been pleasant, rather, not because I was doing so much cleaning, but because I was stressing and just watching news shows and stuff like I would while I'm working. And, nothing comes of it. And it's just like, I can understand that maybe this is a reaction to the same kind of fear, whatever, unwillingness to like do something, anything along those lines. But it's like, there's a reason that there's certain expected standards and norms, because indeed everybody has their problems, Anyhow, what have I done? I managed to come up here once it's clear that there absolutely was no way we're going to be getting anything done today, and finished up my French movement phase. So I've gotten almost nothing done on the game. I've gotten, didn't go shopping today. Got little bits of cleaning done, which, in a way that's a big thing, because I just wouldn't bother otherwise, right? But, less than an hour total. And had kind of a miserable day where I'm feeling sick to my stomach and everything. Not going to do it again. Just no. So, yeah. French railing some guys over to the more threatened sectors. I need to fill in the gaps up here. I don't know how I'm going to do it quite precisely, but it might involve moving sector borders and whatnot. I'm thinning this out, but not to a ridiculous level, I think. Other areas which were already thinned out, if anything, are getting thickened a little bit. And overall, I feel kind of comfortable with these moves that I'm making. It's not where the troops start out. They start out down here, presumably with the intention of attacking, but, we've lost a little ground. We didn't gain any there. We gained quite a bit here. How much? Now, compare that to what the Germans have gained, here. Yeah, but that's Belgium. When we take a look at going through Luxembourg, again, a lot of empty space to traverse. Once we get to the French border itself, this is about as far as we've gained against them. And, that's about as much as we've gained going into France through Belgium. And we're way behind schedule on that. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Especially since I not only am going dancing tomorrow, but I'm hoping to go on Saturday as well. So this day has been Veterans Day. The reason I have a Thursday off. Odd sort of thing to have happen. So the Germans made a few sporadic attacks along the line. I couldn't really afford much more. We had some places where some of those attacks are really kind of sputtering down, and I need to get more meat on the line up here where it's going to count, right? Except here's the problem. The French succeeded massively here. They took the entrenchments here, and they took the entrenchments here. And if they can collapse this area, it isn't like a good thing. It isn't an okay thing for Germany. So, I mean, you can push the French way back, right? There's well, maybe not that far. I was going to say there's a lot of Switzerland, but there really isn't. I guess this counts as the Swiss border here. It had better, because there's not a lot of room for the French otherwise, yeah. we got border here, down to about here. But the Germans, and the French for that matter, kind of need maybe some of the extra spaces they have back here. I guess we could just fall back and create a contiguous line going down to Switzerland, and then no points would be lost because there's nothing of importance down here in the Strasbourg region. I mean, there really is. If the French took Strasbourg, I would be like, that is a pretty major factor. But the game encourages the Germans not to defend that all that well, which I think is a bit of a flaw. And then elsewhere, not a lot of gain, a little bit of attritional fighting that didn't get me much placement. Ooh, we did blow this fortress, which means I can just walk into it next turn and cover it, but no fortresses fell. Like none of these prolonged sieges. The rules as written in the original rule book don't allow you to ever get rid of these fortresses. And they never fully go away anyhow, but like they're a lot harder to reestablish once you take the counter off the board. Trouble, first of all, yesterday, not just being yesterday, but it floods into other days. So any kind of failure, anything like that, sends me into a tailspin. And it's one of the reasons I can't afford to try things, is that things get a lot worse when anything is attempted at any level and it fails. But I'm also losing heart here, and I don't know how much of that is I just want to fucking go play video games or sleep or something at this point. And it's ridiculous because it's not even something I really wanted to get done, do whatever. It's just though, like, this is how I'm built when failure happens. Anyway, I've kind of lost any kind of real view of what the fuck I'm trying to do with the Germans. I mean, I'm trying to push this line back, but the fact that it's well defended means, not well defended. The fact that there's units in my way means that it is a slow slog forward, and I'm not going to meet anywhere near historical goals. I had some hopes that everything would just break. Everything is just breaking, but still there's crap in my way that slows me down. They keep throwing another unit out there, that's battered, whatever, but they're leaving shit behind and it's slowing my path forward. So I'm not going to get anything like those kind of gains, which means I have to make more impressive gains where I'm not supposed to, here in the center. And that doesn't seem likely. Now, I'm trying to invest Nancy because, I don't know, there are advantages to that. If I'm able to get rid of the last fortress, yeah. I'm out of bullets. The whole thing kind of surrenders. All the units in it all surrender. So there's a threat when you invest the entire thing. And that's done by surrounding it, but I've got to do that by kind of cracking around the edges. I don't think I'm going to get anywhere with that. Over here, I've thrown some reinforcements in. 14th R Reserve Corps is pulling its way in here. We're trying to trench in. Again, I don't think we're going to see anything dramatic happen on the French side any more than we are over here or anywhere. Once the lines start forming, it's just too hard to keep fighting. And there's a reason why the game kind of ends when it does, which is that, there's not going to be any more big gains after that. Well, why? Because the lines are formed. Here, I let the lines form almost immediately, and we're just not going to see it. Yes, the French, and especially the British and Belgian armies, are being stretched pretty damn far, but there's nothing like the overall collapse, right? and trying to pick away at corners. I'm kind of, so like here, I'm stuck in this battle. I could extricate myself. It would take me a few turns to get out of there, to repair things, and to try to find another place to launch myself. Because this is not an effective fight with these escarpments here. That's, even though I've got like, 6 divisions against 1, it's still not a good move. Over at Maubert, what's going on? Something's going on here. Yeah, again, I had hopes of kind of cutting it off and breaking it down. That's not happening. Maybe if these forts ever surrender, I'll be able to move around a little bit more and do stuff. But right now, I'm just trying to push my way through them. The most exciting thing is here, but I don't see what the hell it's going to do. I'm just creating this dent in the French line. And yes, they're throwing more troops in and whatnot, but... and as I said, I really don't know if I'm going to make it much further, because my initial screw-ups in terms of the German advance just prevented things. Seeing a lot of rail movement around as I try, like in some places I need more troops, like the First Army could use more troops to try to exploit that attack. But I've got this, I think this one, this Corps command center that I've just been shipping around because I got nowhere to put it. Well, now I'm beginning to feel like, a Corps would be useful. I don't remember where the hell it was. I think back here in Fifth Army, because some of these unaligned units, I'm kind of thinking I need a Corps. So here I could get 3 different unaligned units under one command if I could align them all, or 2 of the 3, into the same Corps. I can't do that. I could strengthen things by putting one of them under the 16th, which would allow me to put both of these in here. But I can't put them all in here, which is where I really want them. Trying to consolidate some cav units. Unfortunately, they're kind of things that have been holding up my lines, and that's some of the rail movement you see. Is I created one of them through normal movement, the guard cav into the 1cc, wherever that is up here, which kind of caused some deformations. It's okay, I pulled everything back because of it so that they could recover a little bit. But then I have another one, the 2cc, that requires 3 cav divisions, and these cav divisions are not completely being unused. So like I have one sitting here, one sitting here. They're kind of holding the gaps in my line as I advance. Not really sure I'm going to be able to afford not having them. And then what if I succeed here? That extends my line. I actually shouldn't even fucking be doing this. I don't know. But I threw another Corps in up here so I can stretch, maybe make it to that 42 without getting hurt. I feel like my goals in terms of line contiguousness, etc., they don't really lock into my head in terms of anything meaningful. I don't understand what this is where I can like cut everybody loose for a little while and then, hey, y'all gotta come home now, it's dinner time. I don't know. Anyway, I may be falling back far from this. It's not just yesterday, right? It's a couple of other things. So I had a couple of things in my life that were, I have to do these things. And I've kind of done a half-assed job on them. In terms that So it's just been like a series of failures this week where I kind of sighed and said, okay, I will take care of this damn thing. I will take care of this damn thing. And none of them resolved well, So, I don't want all the blame on one stupid little thing. It's a lot of stupid little things that I can't handle. And another kind of slow turn. They all seem that way. Punched an opening through the Belgians. I think that invariably means a little bit more falling back. It's another disordered unit that has to recover. There's just not a lot along the line, and the coastal territory is falling faster than anything else. Pushed around some of the GDT units as well, but other than that, not a lot. And I wasn't really trying for a lot this turn. A couple of fortresses went down, not too important though. One here and one over on Tool. And the French attack didn't do shit. Most of the German attacks didn't do shit. Some of them hurt the Germans. Most of them just, attrition on both sides, whatever. That puts us into what I call the special turn, the turn before the interphase, which means, hey, we got to spend next turn, instead of attacking, trying to make sure that our lines hook up. More than anything else. Sending another corps into this area should help a little bit. Supposedly I got something else heading here. I don't know what the hell it is. I think it may be this thing. I don't know. No fucking clue. And though I don't know if that's commanded somewhere else, it should be wherever it's going. I don't know what happened. We gotta paw through all these. That's going to F. That's F. So that should be in 5th Corps now, or 5th Army now, which doesn't really do anything for us. We had space in the 2nd Army. All right. And yeah, I mean, it's raining. I'm down enough. I'm actually considering not going dancing tonight, which, I don't know. That happened a couple of times last year when we hit December and then January. Well, last year. The year before. Last year, because of the pandemic, anytime I could go, I went. And this year, it's been the same, but it's been going every week, and since I'm planning on going tomorrow and may want to and do want to go shopping tomorrow as well, it's like this. Well, gosh, maybe I should take today off because I have real fears that I'm going to end up missing one of those two things, if not both, if I don't take today off. I can probably do both if I take today off. I may do neither if I don't. So, and that's just, I don't know. Whatevers. I'm having a lot of trouble getting the will up to play. I don't know. I know Thursday was the day I had off that I was supposed to Wednesday night and Thursday night I thought I was supposed to do something, and just didn't get a response back from the guy, so I ended up seeing him on Friday at the bar, but whatever. But yeah, I ended up doing everything that I wanted to. I don't know where I came back on things. So I went out Friday, and the fact that I had taken Thursday, and not gotten anything done on Thursday, I could have gone shopping or something. And there was another band on Saturday that I wanted, or there was a band on Saturday that I wanted to see after dancing on Friday. I ended up doing everything on Saturday that I possibly wanted to. I don't remember what the nature of those things were. obviously I went out on Friday, but on Saturday I went to the band. But I also did shopping on Saturday. That opened up my Sunday. But for the weekend, and now today's Tuesday and Monday as well, I've been playing a computer game, Rebel Galaxy Outlaw, which is the second of a series, and I enjoyed the first one, so I pulled the second one down. And I've been really addicted to it, and now I'm like, oh, geez, I really ought to play some of this. I don't know at what rate or whatever. Anyhow, I start pulling out the setup stuff, and I found this Paris Northeast, and it's cool because it didn't mean a damn thing. I had it, I couldn't figure out where it was during the setup, and threw it in with the Paris reinforcements. So they'll both, I'll dig that up where that's supposed to go. One problem that's going to happen here, because there always has to be a problem, is the GD. First of all, most of these counters are replacements for the GDT, making them a little better. But the GDT core is going to disappear. And, you know, I've got additional core somewhere, I think. I mean, I got something like this that's only holding one division. That's not really helping anyone, you know. The division's a core on its own under the Army. The main reason I need a core right now, because the French aren't launching attacks, and they sure the hell aren't with the GDT, is so that this thing doesn't become a mess with everything up in the top section of it. Again, these organizational cards, I don't know how much good they're doing. Mainly, every now and then on the opposing player's turn, you're prevented from doing something. Because, well, there's two reasons. One is that I assimilate my planning phases with my movement phase. So all my supply checks and all my boundaries and everything are figured out, and core deployments are figured out as I'm moving. Technically, you shouldn't do that. Technically, well, not so technically, if you didn't do that, the game would be a complete nightmare, and I would have packed it away on about turn 3. By assimilating them, it means that basically you can fiddle things around, and it's just a little bit of bookkeeping up here. But on the opposing player's turn, you have no chance to reorganize your armies and core, which means that every now and then you will be inhibited from doing what you want to do. If I did things by the book, in order, I would never be able to function these armies. I mean, during my own player turn, because basically you would have to do the moves, figure out what all the commands are, undo the moves, or maybe whatever, you know, and then do them again, you know, because it really requires seeing the pieces moving on the board and what everything's going to end up to decide what the function, where the pieces are going to, where they need to end up, what you need for a core structure and an army structure to make things work. Anyway, we may be at the point where I'm taking like a week for a player turn, and that, if that happens, you know, we're talking Vietnam level here, this may be the end of the game. Because I wasn't getting that much out of it. That's why I'm playing a video game. And I'm highly addicted to it, to the video game, and really don't feel like playing board games at all for the rest of the winter, probably. Boy, you know, being away for a little while really nails down the misery of doing those replacements. I can't face anything else probably for the rest of the day. I can't. I don't have the will when there's something I would rather be doing, like slitting my wrists. You know, the GDT was easy enough to replace, but now I've got no place for them in the core structure. I just left them where they are, and I don't know. That's good enough. They don't have a core commanding them. Doesn't really make much difference. But for the other pieces, you know, I had to hunt down all over the map where they were. And, you know, the only way to really see that rather than looking here, luckily, they were either garrison unit or units that were going to appear on the command structures. What really sucks is when you're replacing an asset that you don't know where it is, because that basically means pawing through the entire board. You can make guesses and whatnot. And now I got these stupid railed units with destinations that I've got to remember too. I just am not looking forward to any of this at all, having come back. It's like, it was playable when the game had me in sort of a Stockholm syndrome, where I'm like, oh yeah, I'm enjoying this, you know. Now I'm like, wait, I was being fucking tortured. A sign of, you know, how bad my addiction is, but also my avoidance to doing something like this, because there's other things I'm avoiding too, which is why I trigger my addictions, really. It's somewhat conscious. But anyway, you know, I pretty much blew off most of the day in terms of doing this. You know, I had work and my video game and whatever. And I have a book that I'm reading and many, many more books that I could be reading and all kind of other stuff to avoid playing this or any of the other things in my life that, you know, that are more pressing, but that this was serving as an escape from. But yeah, you know, eventually the guilt came in, and this is something I could do. So I managed to get 4 of the Allied armies moved. And that leaves me with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more. And this is just the Allied withdrawal. It's a fairly easy part of the game, but I just have no will for it. The thing that's helping is, and this is why I end up not playing video games usually, is that the video game has reached kind of a hard point. And I'm like, well, I don't want to stop doing what I'm trying to do. I don't want to run away and, you know, go do other things if I can't get this part solved, because I'm honestly, I'm about as armed as you can get and as capable. And that's actually holding me off, because I want to switch over to more of a freighter type thing. And if I don't get this mission out of the way, I'll never do it. Now, it's not, I think, one that's vital to sort of semi-finish the game, but it's one of the pre-programmed things. It's not just like something you pick up off a merchant guild or anything. Yeah, got a lot more to say about my video game than I do about this, because I just don't have the will. All right, well, shit. Forgot the second army. Didn't I? No, I did the second army. Okay. Managed to shift the Entente line again. Have to be careful because I have to keep the line in place. Mainly, I did what I always seem to do. Work down there, get a couple of armies done, move up here, do a couple armies, and then the center becomes kind of messier than everything else. Although actually, I gotta tell you, messy as it is or whatever, the need to fill the gap in the 5th Army, or to strengthen its capabilities so that this bulge doesn't just turn into something close to historical, was high enough that actually became a major concern. One of the issues that I'm having, and I don't know whether it's because I've been playing a lot of computer game, especially very, very action-oriented game, is my eyesight has gotten a lot worse since the last, I don't know, since a week ago. It's Thursday now. Veterans Day was a Thursday, and in between I've been largely either going out or playing video games or work or whatever. I don't know if it's that or if it's something about the lighting changed. Maybe the flicker's worse or whatever. But I am really having trouble seeing. And it makes dealing with a larger game like this much, much more difficult. I have a fear that I may never get to some of my bigger games as my eyesight continues to degenerate. On the bright side, I did call my eye doctor, which is something I've been putting off for a month. He sent me, a mailing saying, hey, you're due for another checkup. It's been a couple of years, I don't know how many. And I'm like, yeah, my glasses are starting to break. The nose piece came off on one side. And, yeah, I probably am. Well, my insurance covers not fully, and my glasses are incredibly expensive. But it covers one set of glasses or contacts a year. And I'm just, it doesn't make sense for me to pawn out, even with insurance, like $700 for every year. I had one of my coworkers was like, oh yeah, I take advantage of it every year. And I'm like, well, I don't, because these are costing more than they used to cost me out of pocket when I had no insurance. I don't know if they boost the price for insurance or whatever. That would be probably pretty illegal if they did, but the cost has just gotten really high. And, so I'm at my usual scheduling. 3 to 5 years I wait. And my eyes usually don't change much, but the difference this last week has been really actually pretty heavy. So I'm kind of looking forward to it. Plus I got a scratch on them that is bothering me. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe I scratched my glasses going out this weekend. But you see, I can get some things done. However, it took me a month, because of other things that were more important that I hadn't done yet. I don't remember what. Oh yeah, stuff to do with my phone and another look at my wife's banking stuff to see if I could figure out a way of dealing with it. But yeah, and so, I am capable of doing some things, but I still put them off continuously. And it's almost, I don't know, it's almost like a terror aspect. It's an anxiety thing more than anything else, I think. Anyway, here I dish out, my concerns again for no reason. But honestly, if you've been watching for this long, it's probably not for the game. Yes, this is something that catches some interest, but I don't think that my playthrough is really giving that view very well. I come in and I say, oh look, they straightened up their line, they lost some more ground. There's just not that much to say. It's a big operational game. It's not gonna create the story the way that tactical and strategic games do, at least for me. And that means that it's really, really hard to convey that story. Anyway, it's been a while since I've talked to anyone, right? Including yourselves. Oh, and GMT sent me another one of my purchases, one of my pre-orders, in this case, another 18XX game. So Robin should be happy once I get through this. Maybe I'll have a few train games for him. Yeah. A little bit more digging in. And, for the Germans, I don't know, I just don't have the energy again. I'm proud of myself for coming up here and pushing through what I did of the French center. Now on the German counter moves, moving 14th Corps over here into the Strasbourg region. It's been kind of creeping in that direction. Other things, the French are making one attack that they declared, and that's to be expected. They're trying to fill out their line and for the interphase and strengthen it where it needs to be strengthened more than anything else. They're trying to hold the Germans down. German attacks, I am finding myself in a position as I move, I only got to the 5th, towards the center, trying to break through here between the Toul-Nancy connection and Verdun. There's this little gap. And it's a neat little gap because if I get to the 45 column there, I'll stop losing victory points. But it is stretching my line. For the French, they have a lot of fortifications there, so they kind of are able to keep their line. They do have to build this bulge, though, and if that gets broken, they lose victory point. So, or multiple, depending on how badly broken it is. Anyway, why did I pick up the video midway through the counter move? Well, because I haven't been here much, and I'm talking more per playing time. But no, it's because I was over here trying to do the 7th Army's counter moves, and I noticed the river inundation. And, you know, it's funny because I did keep reminding myself, there's something you got to do with that, right? I thought you just needed to be adjacent to the river, but now I realize, wow, I didn't manage even that, maybe, but at the beginning of the turn, somebody probably was. You need a division-size unit here in Newport to cause it. Now, it just didn't happen, you know. How big a deal is it? I don't know. You know, this is the kind of tiny little bits of chrome. It comes with a very high cost. You have to remember this all game long and what the requirements are for setting it off for something that has almost no fucking effect unless this is really kind of where the defensive line ends up. I mean, for one turn or whatever, this might be a little bit of an inhibitor to the advance that the Germans are going to make. It doesn't look like it could be used as a massive part of a defensive line. It could be if I'm defending this river line. If I was defending this river line, sure, I could do it. Should there be options for similar things elsewhere? Maybe, you know. This is the one that happened. So now there's a special little rule that's really easy to forget, that you kick yourself for forgetting and then realize it really didn't make a damn bit of difference when it comes down to it. And it probably shouldn't be in the game. And I'm looking at the same thing with like the rail rules. Remember, this is not the earliest incarnation of the system, but they've been simplifying it. And this is sort of the second incarnation, and Twilight in the East has come out with modified rules. Now, there's modified rules for this that streamline and simplify it, I assume. But they require more counters. God knows there's too many as it is for, you know, so much of it is not, you know, stuff that's on the board that you're moving, but, you know, tracking the organizational displays, all these numerical counters for movement points being carried over from tasks. It all makes sense. But in this particular case, what I'm thinking is the rail system. Again, it's sort of the naive and, you know, detailed in view of what the rail system should look like, right? You put movement points to get on and off a train. It takes quite a bit. You have very, very quick movement when you're on the train, but there's a lot of tracking to take account of that. And then there's also the destroyed rail sections, which make the network a little bit harder to navigate, but not a whole lot harder. So far, I haven't had to go through any of these. I'm not sure why. I mean, this one, I've got a net here. Over here, I've already, it may be that I'm so late in the game that enough of the, to make any kind of ground objectives, that to make certain of these hexes that have a restriction on them have already gone past. And I've actually also exceeded, well, I haven't gotten through this one, but I've exceeded the, yeah, I don't remember what I was going to say. Anyway, yeah. it's just, there's such a heavy amount of tracking for what kind of works out to be a difference of a couple of movement points, you know, if a more simplified system were taken. Remember, there was not this much complexity in the Serbian game. Now, there's a lot less rail net. You're going to do a lot less rail movement in that. And the rail nets are more important for supply in that because they aren't very strong. Here, they're very strong, and it's important, I guess, to express that, you know, how long it would take to recover things. But again, that's kind of arbitrary. It's assuming the historical advance, and the historical advance didn't happen everywhere in this game. But some of those rail lines would be cleared earlier, some later. I'm okay with the abstraction. In fact, I'm not sure tracking all that information is all that important, but I'm not sure it's not. You know, I'm thinking, I don't know. It's just, there's such an overhead to this game across the board. And you look for places to streamline it, but you streamline too much and you lose what this game is about. This game is about presenting you with all this detail. So, I don't know. Anyway, I lost my train of thought and my ability to end this video. Out of the habit of making comments at this point, which is before I roll for the fortresses and whatnot. I'll do that, and maybe I'll come back. But this is essentially the end of the player turn. It took me a week to do. Not the game's fault there, at least not that much. It hasn't gotten that much more complicated or anything. The French made one attack and it was impressive. They broke through down here, and that's going to cause some problems for the Germans. In the short term, they got to fill this gap. Okay, no big deal. But yeah, you know, in the longer term, they lost an entrenched position. They're getting driven deeper here. They thinned out their line maybe a little more by diverting a corps up into the Strasbourg-Alsace sector than the French did, and the French have been able to make some gains down there. And those gains are beginning to look a little bit dangerous. There's still, I think, nothing down here. I mean, I could lose Strasbourg, right? Except that I can't afford the loss of the line during the interphases because that's a victory point per space lost. For the German attacks, they made a few less than usual. Things are slowing down. Places like this are recovering. And they didn't go all that well. Over here, these guys, I've been complaining about their attack for a while, but it's hard to get this unit out of this little bubble it's in. And so it's easier to just say, okay, I think I'll attack. Well, it ends up not being that great an attack because of the ridgeline, which I never notice until I'm calculating the attack odds. At least I do notice it then. Over here, yeah, we didn't punch ahead, and things didn't go terrific there. Up here, slowed down again in the British sector. Elsewhere, it didn't go too badly. I mean, you know, I was fighting the GDF or whatever and the Belgians, so there's some advantages there. But I probably should have held off with some of the other attacks. I got a kind of attrition that isn't helping me. All right. Just, I want to highlight the meaninglessness, essentially, of all these substitutions that are taking place, or at least a large quantity of them. First of all, we had this, I don't know what it is, ABT Rakowski. Essentially, like many other substitutions, it's basically a 1 strength point increase. in attack and defense value. Okay, the units are growing. Do you really have to track every single unit that way? Screw it, man. It's a lot of effort to keep track of it. And if almost everything is doing it, don't bother. You know? And yes, the name changes. It changed just to Retkowski. It got rid of the ABT for whatever reason. That meant the little control counter has to flip and whatever. But there's a lot of effort involved in this for very, very little gain. There's certain things that can be abstracted away. And in my view, much of these slight increments to units is one of the factors. A way to do it that would work is to enter units, if there are units that aren't increasing at the same level as everything else, enter units with a step loss, because the step replacement functionality is kind of slow and jagged, and it gives the player some control over which units they're upgrading. Then we had these Jaegers, which got replaced. They got replaced with non-cavalry versions of the same unit, which have the exact same strength point values to them. Again, for what limited value that their cav capability provided, I'm just not that impressed, you know, with making these changes. I just don't know what to say. German advance attempts are slowing down. Here, a couple attacks here. Gonna try to prep fire against this where I'm actually allowed to do it. Trying to find weaknesses that, you know, in the line where maybe we can break something. So for example, if we make Malberge more and more expensive to maintain a link to, that seems like a good idea. If we can kind of drive this further and further, that seems like a good idea. This is at the cutting edge, might mean a victory point. Part of what we had to, what made us more resistant to launching attacks, other than just wearing out, is the, oh yeah, this is that turn where you can't make attacks because you have to build your line back up. You know, I would rather the costs be less, but it be throughout the game, you know, on every turn. Doing it on the interphase creates this weird pulsing action that I just do not buy as historically accurate. In this game that I'm having a hard time learning, which are if you do kind of a sporadic attack, just a couple of units, a couple of hexes moving up on the enemy and hitting them. For example, well, here where I had two hexes, there was a little curvature aside, an extra French unit got to get thrown in. If you only have one unit attacking, one hex launching the attack, you have nothing to pin the opposing forces down. So I would have been better off spreading my forces out, making a weaker position to make a more engulfing attack, which would prevent these from entering into the defensive position. I don't know how much I understood that before, but I'm clearly making these mistakes. This is not just this turn after this long break, but I remember making them when I was playing a little bit more consistently. Like I said before, we're going to do a prep bomb here. First thing, and it's legal this time, is we drop it there. I'm going to only use the little guns on it, the 21 centimeters. And I'm able to simply roll a die. I don't know how many I have. I have 4 or more. Yeah, but more is matters. Okay, I have 2, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them. Great. I'm not going to use any of the heavy guns on this because, again, I think that uses ammo. And what modifiers do I get? Penalties for escarpments. And elevation. So this becomes complicated. This looks like I got escarpments in both directions. Well, that blows chunks. So that's a +2. Yeah, this would be really sweet, but. All right, we get a shitty roll this time, so we only get one column shift. We're going to cause an extra casualty. This is one of the few ways you can cause a casualty to the defender that the attacker doesn't take. And I will get one degrade automatic before the battle starts to the CEL level. I picked up my little tiddlywink, and the escarpments are all going the other way. I'm actually in higher terrain, so we actually get 3 column shifts and 3 hits to the CEL, which, if these guys are at all damaged, may force them into, 3 hits puts you just below combat ineffective. So if they've got 1 hit on them already, which I don't think they do, but if they do, that puts them into the more likely to retreat situation. And with the high odds shifts and a decent roll on the black die is the more important, but that one doesn't get modified. So, the black die can cause retreats to the defender way up, on the shitty, it can cause it way up on the best side of the table, but it's really the way to generate retreats. Even on the shitty end at the high levels, the black die can cause retreats. So even poor quality units that might get knocked into the, +2 range at high odds can still push the enemy out of there, which there's really nothing that affects that black die at all. So that was successful. We took the hex, did some damage, and it's an important hex. I don't know how much more important it is to keep trying to batter my way through that line. I feel like this is where, I'm actually getting some ground, and with Tool between those two, I can't really afford to make attacks in both directions. But taking the Nancy hex seemed important. That heavy artillery isn't going to do me any good anywhere else. The prep fires are so limited, you can't do them. Antwerp, Paris, and Nancy, and that's it. So I doubt that I'll be using my artillery for much. There's some fortress here. I don't know if there's one under here. It looks like it's probably just a unit. Yeah. So, I could keep trying there, or I could hold them off for potential attacks on Paris that I don't think are going to materialize. There's really very little else that I can use them for, so I don't know. Maybe. The success at Nancy and a fort that finally surrendered. Fortress, whatever. Not a lot to the advantage of the Germans here. They didn't get hurt bad either. The only real gain they made was a push on the Belgians back here. I think. Seem to remember retreating a French unit. Not sure where. Maybe it didn't happen. These guys were getting close to retreating, that's probably all. By not putting pressure on the Brits, they're going to have a chance to recover some of their effectiveness. The Belgians, however, are clearly, as always, the weak spot in the line, along with those territorial units that I have here in the 5th Army. So everything surrounding the Brits really kind of sucks compared to them. They're sort of the rock of that position, but I'm having to keep giving ground because units have to recover. I can't fill the entire front, and recover the units that are getting damaged. If I leave the entire front filled with units that are going to get damaged, they're just going to get their asses kicked and they're going to get blown back anyway, without ever recovering, so they'll never have the chance. So every time gains are made, they just keep being made. So it seems better to fall back a little further, try to recover more units. I don't know though. But the majority of the territory that's been gained since full-on engagement has been stuff that has been given voluntarily because we wouldn't have an option otherwise. I guess I have to do the interphase now. Okay, once more, a whole bunch of replacement points come in. The vast majority, that the French did not need all theirs. So again, they collect up 3 more additional ones. They're up to like 21 in reserve. At this point, the British haven't been using them. They've been collecting all theirs that they've got. The Germans, on the other hand, mainly fueling that northern expansion up here. I did throw a couple down here. But, you know, the difference is really how many attacks were made in that early part of the game, because they're almost always trade-offs, unless you're doing intensive attack or defense. And nobody's done an intensive defense yet, I think. It's actually more valuable than intensive attacks, but I have such a hard time thinking along those lines. But the intensive defense, if you're looking at not too bad an odds, you're just trying to avoid, let me see, ignore all, well, you're trying to avoid any retreat condition, and that's the problem. So there are still cases where you will cost yourself more men that maybe you weren't going to have to retreat in anyhow. Oh, what else? I don't know. But, yeah. So the French could actually expend themselves some defensive intensive defenses, because I've got so many extra strength points available that I probably ought to be considering putting up a little bit more of a fight than I have been. However, the outcome of the game is largely determined. There is no way. I haven't added the points for this. So we've got a, I don't know what here, 43, 34. Call it a -9 there. 42, 33 again, -9. I don't think we're going to see anything better up here. 32, 23, 33, 23, so -10. Yeah, -9 seems to be about where we're going to be. So we do that. Tons and tons of improved positions. Next turn, or next interphase, it goes up to unlimited. You can dig in as much as you like from then on. And the rules for improved positions have been changed. Now, if you're sitting in one, you can recover even if you're adjacent to the enemy. And that's a huge, huge difference. Basically, we're entering into the beginnings of the real trench warfare. And that's going to make life a lot more difficult. Which may be a reason to just stop. I don't know. Because, again, I think the game is decided here. Largely by my inability to push hard enough in that northern sector. You know, I got nothing like the historical advances. We're just now coming up on some of these places where the French blew up the rails, and you know, they're not going to have an effect. Of course, Antwerp surrendered early. There's that. I'm looking to see, this is going to be turn 19. There's piles and piles of reinforcements showing up on turn 19. What are they? Various substitutions. Doesn't look like we're actually getting any units. I may be mistaken. We're getting a new army for the French, and then, I mean, I see what looks like a whole lot more stuff. I don't know what that all is. I guess we'll figure that out. Oh, special French artillery reinforcement. Yeah, I don't know the rules on that. That's what a lot of it is. And then substitutions for the Germans again. For the most part, you don't get new units in this game. What you get is, oh, look, I got an extra strength point on my units. Which, again, I just think is way too much fiddly aspect for what's essentially... I've seen other games that blow that off. I think OCS does with the... Well, yeah, there were strength increases across the board, but for the most part, they were implemented improvements and reinforcements into the units that were already on the board. If you're going to have to do something like that, I would push for using the replacement rules. But whatever. Alrighty. I guess this one gets sent up. I can't guarantee I'm going to start the next interphase. I just don't know how much more there is to be learned about this system in this playthrough. I could learn a whole lot more if I started all over again. I'm not about to do that. I just don't have that kind of will.